Look, here's what nobody's telling you about what just happened with your taxes. And if you're 65 or older, you need to hear this right now. New rules have just been rolled out, and buried in these changes is something that could put real money back in your pocket. We're talking about a brand new $6,000 deduction, $12,000 if you're married, specifically for seniors. This is on top of your standard deduction. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this actually going to help me, or is this just another government gimmick? Here's the reality. This new deduction could reduce or even completely eliminate federal taxes on your Social Security income. But here's the catch. This isn't permanent. It only runs through a limited window, which means you've got a short time frame to take advantage of this. And when you combine this with the recent cost of living adjustment that just kicked in for Social Security, plus changes to Medicare premiums and how much of your income gets taxed, we're looking at the biggest shakeup in senior finances in years. The average retiree is going to see their monthly check increase, but most folks are going to lose about $18 of that to higher Medicare Part B premiums. So you're really only netting about $38 more per month after Medicare takes its cut. This is why understanding these new rules isn't optional. It's essential if you want to keep more of your hard-earned money. Now let me tell you what's really going on here, because this isn't just about some numbers changing on a tax form. This is about your future, your retirement, and whether you're going to be able to keep the money you've spent decades earning. Tucked inside recent legislation are some changes that are going to directly affect how much money stays in your pocket versus how much goes to the government. And I'm going to break this down for you in plain English, because the last thing you need is some financial expert talking over your head with a bunch of jargon that doesn't help you one bit. Let's start with what actually changed. The standard deduction, that's the amount you can automatically subtract from your income before calculating what you owe in taxes, just went up. If you're single, it's now $16,100. And if you're married filing jointly, it's $32,200. Now, that's a modest bump from last year. But here's where it gets interesting. For folks who are 65 and older, you already had an additional standard deduction just for being a senior. But now, on top of all that, there's this brand new senior deduction that could put up to $6,000 back in your pocket, or $12,000 if both you and your spouse qualify. This is huge, and most people don't even know it exists yet. Here's how this actually works in the real world. Let's say you're a 72-year-old single filer with an income of $70,000 a year. Under the old rules, you'd get the standard deduction plus that extra senior deduction. But now you can stack this new $6,000 deduction on top of everything else. That means instead of paying taxes on $52,250 of your income, you're only paying taxes on $46,250. Depending on your tax bracket, that could save you anywhere from $600 to over $1,000 in actual tax dollars. For a married couple, we're talking about potentially even bigger savings, because both spouses can claim that $6,000 deduction if they both meet the age requirement. But, and this is critical, not everyone's going to get the full benefit of this new deduction. There is a phase out, which is a fancy way of saying that if you make too much money, they're going to start taking this benefit away from you. If you're single and your modified adjusted gross income is over $75,000, or if you're married filing jointly and your combined income is over $150,000, this deduction starts to disappear. And it doesn't just drop off a cliff all at once. For every $1,000 you earn over that threshold, you lose $60 of the deduction. So, if you're a single filer making $85,000, you're $10,000 over the limit, which means you lose $600 of that $6,000 deduction, leaving you with $5,400. By the time you hit $175,000 as a single filer or $250,000 as a married couple, the deduction is completely gone. Now, here's where this gets really practical. If you're close to one of those income thresholds, you need to be thinking strategically about how you can manage your income to stay below the line. And I'm not talking about doing anything shady or illegal. I'm talking about smart legal tax planning that anyone can do. For example, if you're still working and you have access to a retirement plan, you might want to consider maxing out your contributions. Every dollar you put into that retirement account reduces your taxable income, which could keep you under that phase-out threshold and let you claim the full senior deduction. Let me give you a real-world scenario. Say you're 66 years old, still working part-time, and your total income for the year is going to be about $80,000. That puts you $5,000 over the limit for the full deduction. But if you increase your retirement plan contributions by just $5,000 over the course of the year, you bring your modified adjusted gross income down to $75,000, and boom, you now qualify for the full $6,000 deduction. You've essentially turned $5,000 of current income that would have been taxed at your marginal rate into retirement savings, and you've unlocked an additional $6,000 deduction that's going to save you real money on your tax bill. That's the kind of strategic thinking that can make a massive difference in your financial life. But here's something else you need to understand about this deduction. It's temporary. This benefit only runs for 4 tax years. That means you've got 4 years to take advantage of this, and then unless it is extended, it's gone. So if you're in that sweet spot where you can benefit from this deduction, you need to be maximizing it right now, not putting it off until later. This is one of those situations where procrastination is literally costing you money. And let's talk about what this means for your Social Security income specifically, because this is where a lot of seniors are going to see the biggest impact. Right now, depending on your total income, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits can be subject to federal income tax. That's right. You paid into Social Security your entire working life. And then, when you finally start collecting, the government can turn around and tax up to 85% of it. However, this new deduction could reduce, or in some cases completely eliminate, the federal taxes you pay on your Social Security income. For a lot of middle-income retirees, this is going to be the difference between paying a couple thousand in taxes every year and paying little to nothing. Here's something else that's important to understand. When we talk about the tax brackets, they've all been adjusted for inflation. The top tax rate stays the same. But now it doesn't kick in until you're making over a much higher amount. For most of us, that's not relevant because we're not making anywhere near that kind of money. But what is relevant is that the lower brackets have also been adjusted. The bottom 2 brackets got a larger inflation adjustment, while the higher brackets got a smaller bump. What this means in practical terms is that if your income has stayed relatively flat or only gone up with inflation, you might actually find yourself paying a slightly lower effective tax rate this year than you did last year. But let's get back to the senior deduction because there are some strategies here that most people aren't thinking about. One of the smartest moves you can make if you qualify for this deduction is to consider doing Roth conversions. If you have money in a traditional retirement account, that money has never been taxed. When you eventually take it out in retirement, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on every dollar. But with a Roth account, you pay the tax up front when you convert the money, and then it grows tax-free forever. You never pay tax on it again. Not when you withdraw it, not when your kids inherit it, never. Here's where the senior deduction creates an incredible opportunity. You can convert up to $12,000 from your traditional retirement account to a Roth account at essentially zero tax cost if you're married, and both qualify for the senior deduction. Think about what that means. Every year for the next 4 years, you could move $12,000 from a tax-deferred account to a tax-free account without paying any federal income tax on the conversion. Over 4 years, that's $48,000 that you've moved into a Roth account where it's going to grow completely tax-free for the rest of your life and your spouse's life. And when you die and leave it to your kids, they inherit a tax-free asset instead of an account that's going to hit them with a massive tax bill. This is the kind of strategic planning that can be incredibly powerful. Now, I want to be straight with you about something. Fewer than half of older adults are actually going to benefit from this new senior deduction. Why? Because the lowest income seniors typically don't have enough taxable income to benefit. They're already paying little to no federal income tax because their income is below the standard deduction threshold, and the highest income seniors get phased out because they make too much money. The people who benefit the most are middle and upper middle income seniors. If you're a middle income senior, you're looking at an average tax cut of about $220. And if you're in that upper middle income range, the average benefit is closer to $300. Now, $220 or $300 might not sound like a fortune, but remember, that's every single year for 4 years. That's $880 to $1,200 in total tax savings over the life of this provision. And if you combine that with strategic Roth conversions and smart retirement account contributions, you could potentially save thousands more. This is about playing the long game and understanding that every dollar you keep out of the government's hands is a dollar you can use to build wealth, support your family, or enjoy your retirement. There's one more thing I need to mention here, and it's important. Social Security actuaries have estimated that this new tax deduction is going to move up the trust fund depletion date by about 6 months. What that means is that while this tax break is putting money in your pocket right now, it's also accelerating the timeline for when Social Security might have to cut benefits if the funding problem isn't addressed. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't take advantage of this deduction. You absolutely should. You've earned this money. You've paid your taxes your whole life, and you deserve to keep as much of it as legally possible. But it's worth understanding that there are trade-offs here, and at some point, hard decisions will have to be made about how to keep Social Security solvent for the long term. The bottom line is this: these new tax rules create real opportunities for seniors who are willing to pay attention and do some planning. If you're 65 or older and your income falls within the right range, you need to be taking full advantage of this senior deduction. You need to be thinking about ways to manage your taxable income to maximize the benefit, and you need to be having conversations with a tax professional or financial advisor about strategies like Roth conversions that could set you up for long-term tax savings. This isn't complicated stuff, but it does require you to be intentional and proactive. The people who win with money are the ones who pay attention to the details and make smart decisions based on the rules of the game as they exist right now. And right now, the rules have shifted in a way that could benefit millions of seniors, but only if they actually understand what's available and take action to claim it.